Hey y'all, Miss Crawford here, and today we're going to learn a little bit about erosion. We're going to need a few different materials for this experiment. First, we're going to need a bit of water. You're also going to want to use some rocks. Luckily, I collect these, so I've got lots. If you want to keep your hands clean, you're going to want a pair of gloves. You might also like a shovel, or some other gardening tools will do as well. You're going to want a little bit of a cup of water, maybe a spoon. You can use some weeds or some twigs, either one. I just did some weeding, so we're going to use these for this experiment. You're also going to want something with holes in it because we're going to need to make rain. You're also going to need a little bit of dirt. Now, if you get the dirt from the top, it'll work a bit okay, but really what you're going to want to do is dig a little bit lower and get some of the richer dirt down below. That's going to be the best stuff for our experiment. The first thing you're going to want to do is get some dirt and put it in your bucket. You can use a shovel if you don't want to get too dirty, but that might take a little while, so I'm just going to use my hands. You're going to want your bucket to be about this full. Once you're there, you're ready for the next step. The next step is to add some water to the other side of the bucket. So make sure all of your dirt is on one side. I'm going to use my cup to fill in the water. Next, what you're going to do is you're going to use your hand to make some waves with the water. Where do you see waves? Usually at a beach. We're going to see how the beach leads to erosion. Come look. I'm going to take my hand and gently give some waves. Now during the day, the beach gently gives waves to the sand, but sometimes you'll have a storm come and you get bigger waves that come in. Notice what's happening to the dirt. It's a lot further back than when we started. A lot of the times on the coastline, you won't see as much sand. What you'll see is lots and lots of rocks. What you'll see is that the rocks help to keep all of that sand from eroding away. So before you fill the water up this time, you're going to put some rocks at the base of your dirt. You can even put some up along the dirt. Let's see how this affects the erosion. Now that we've got our water, our rocks, and our dirt, let's see what happens when some waves come. Alright, it looks like the normal waves that you'll have every day aren't leading to much erosion. They've got a little bit of dirt that's getting pulled in, but those rocks are sure helping. Let's see what happens when a storm comes. Well, it looks like those rocks are really doing their job. I'd sure prefer to live on top of this hill than the other one. We've seen what happens when erosion happens on the coast, with water coming up to the sand or up to a cliff. But what happens when there's rain on a mountain? For this one, you're going to want to fill your bucket up a good amount. I left some of the dirt from the last experiment, but we need to add some more. So to get our setting ready, what you need to do is make sure you've got enough dirt, and then you're going to form a mountain, alrighty? Now some of it might still be a little bit wet from our last experiment, but that's okay. What matters is that we make a nice packed mountain. So now we're going to look and see what it's like when it rains on top of a mountain. What you're going to need to do is get a holy type of thing, and we're going to slowly pour some water and make some rain. Let's see how it goes. It's happening slowly, but you can see that a lot of the dirt is falling down the mountain. What we're left with as you can see at the top, you come in close. What you're gonna see is that all that's left at the top are these smaller rocks. What do you think would happen if we put some bigger rocks up there? We've got our rocks in place. Let's see how the erosion goes this time. It's about to rain. Now you'll notice there wasn't a lot of dirt at the bottom at the beginning of me pouring the water. Last time we got some pools pretty quick, but this time those pools are starting to happen a lot slower. Pretty cool stuff, huh? I wonder what would happen if there were some plants on this mountain. Let's check it out. So just like I said before, for this section you can use weeds if you've pulled some, or you can use some twigs that you have found to represent roots holding the dirt in place. Now if you look at my mountain here, I've got the top covered in some big tall trees, just like you might see if you go to the mountains. And this side of the mountain has some roots, some trees going into the dirt as well. If you look at this side though, there's no plants there. We're gonna see what difference the roots make in erosion. Let's check it out. Time to make it rain. If you look closely, you'll see that there's not a lot of erosion happening on the side with the plants all over the hillside. But on the side with no plants, the water and the mud is gushing down. What you see happening here is what happens in nature all the time. Places that don't have any plants holding the dirt in place, if there's a rainstorm, a lot of the times there's some mudslides that can be really dangerous. So as you can see, plants and the roots that go into the ground make a big difference in erosion and keeping our mountains intact. For our last experiment, we're going to see how erosion works with a river. So you're going to put some dirt along your bucket just like this, and you're going to carve a small river, a small little ditch down the middle, and push it to one side and the other. As you can see, we didn't dig very deep here, but we did smooth it out so it's a little bit easier to see. What you're going to do next is add some rocks along one side of the river. I'm going to add one right here. I'll add a little one here. We got to try to keep it smooth. And one little one right here. On that same side, you're going to add your twigs, or if you're using other kinds of plants, you'll stick those in. Now we've seen with the other forms of erosion and the other places that you might see erosion that the rocks and the plants typically keep erosion from happening. Let's see if the same is true with a river. All you're gonna do is slowly pour some water at the top of your hill. Let's see what happens. So as you can see, it first starts to soak in, but as the soil gets all water in it, it's going to start to make its way all the way down. If you look, it's already starting to move to the side, but over here, the water isn't getting into the dirt as much. We're going to add more and see what happens. Well, it looks like it's going to keep going the same way. As you can see, where we set the rocks and have the roots planted deep into the soil, the water doesn't erode that side. But over here, you can see that the river's already going to start forming another stream that way. And when we get down to the bottom, instead of fanning out in both directions, because this rock is here, it only fans out in the one direction. So as you can see, with all the types of erosion, Water is washing the dirt away, but what keeps it from happening is the roots that go in deep and the rocks that hold the soil in place. Hey y'all, thanks so much for coming outside with me to learn about erosion. I hope you try this experiment out for yourself to see just how well it works. See you next time.